Okay?
Right.
All right.
Thank you, Julie.
So please join me in welcoming Delaney Wilson, who will present on an acoustic analysis of Spanish, English code switch sentences by non-habitual code switchers.
All right, so I'm Delaney Wilson. When you go and stand up in front of a lot of people, you can feel your heart rate increase really quickly. So yes, I'm going to be talking about an acoustic analysis of Spanish-English code switch sentences by non-habitual code switchers. Through PIRE, I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Granada, Spain. It was my first time on a plane, first time out of a country, out of the US, so it was just such an experience for me to be able to go and experience a different culture. If any of you have not been to Granada, I highly recommend it. It is such a gorgeous place. Like, I tear up sometimes thinking about it. And there's a lot of really amazing food. And if you go with Annie, she will make you do a lot of hiking. All right, so my advisors were Jeanette Vanhel and Mariana Nedieu. And whilst I was in Granada, I was supervised by Perez de Bajo. So, things I'm going to be talking about today, I'm going to go over some previous research that led me to my project. I'm going to talk about my goal, the significance with respect to linguistic research, my hypotheses, my research design and stimuli, participant information, my preliminary results, future work that I would like to do, as well as influences and acknowledgements. All right, so in 2013, Olson studied how language switching affected phonological production. He tested Spanish-English bilinguals through a picture naming task that focused on word initial voiceless stops. And he found that VOTs during switching trials were greater than during non-switching trials, and that English had significantly larger VOTs. If any of you do not know what VOTs are, it's a measure of the duration from the burst of the stop consonant to the onset of the voicing. So that's what I was working on for my project. Additionally, in 2014, Goldrick and colleagues studied how accent manifested in code switch speech. He also worked on studying Spanish-English bilinguals through a picture naming task, and he found that switch trials were more accented than non-switch trials, and that the trial type had a significant effect on the degree of accent. So that just again related back to VOTs. So after reading these papers, I became very interested in how this would manifest in complete sentences. Both of these had just focused on picture naming, but language, it isn't just naming unrelated items. There's a lot more that goes into it, and just looking at the context and having more naturalistic speech could lead to a lot different findings. So my goal was to better understand how the English and Spanish phonologies interact in switched and non-switched sentences by non-habitual code switchers. And we should care about this because it can give us a better understanding of the phonological interaction in bilinguals, and as well, we can learn more about how code switching is produced in speech. So, my hypotheses. My advisors and I expected that the VOTs would be affected through the code switching. Additionally, we thought that there would be anticipatory and carryover effects from code switching. This just relates to the fact that, like, if the target word was before or after the code switch, we would expect to see a variation in the VOTs. So my research design was based off of a study by Koetstra, Van Helen, Dijkstra, and we used we had our code switch sentences primed by color-coded images. So for all of the images, we had blue signifying English and red signifying Spanish. And we had 4 blocks: a training session, monolingual English, monolingual Spanish, and then code switching. The training session was just to get the participants used to the pictures that we were using, and the monolingual conditions were counterbalanced across participants. So I have an example here. This is one of the images that I used in my study. So here, teacher is the target word. So a possible sentence would be, the teacher teaches los estudiantes. For stimuli, we chose 24 target words in English and in Spanish, all beginning with P and T, and they were all found both before the code switch and after the code switch, and each sentence type was repeated 3 times. And I already talked about the pre-switch there, and post-switch would be an image similar to this, where teacher is the target word, and you could get a sentence such as, los estudiantes escucharon al teacher. The conditions that we looked at were unilingual and bilingual, and like I said, we were looking at pre- and post-switch positions. For the unilingual sentences, we had images similar to the code switch ones. However, they didn't have the color-coded circles because they just had to refer to it in a single language. So while I was in Granada, I was at the University of Granada, and it took a surprising amount of effort to find participants, but I ended up getting 24 participants, and as of right now, I have analyzed 11 of them based off of their Melisset and Deli scores, which are just tests to just get a grip on how proficient they are. And we got, for the analyzed participants, they had an average of 43.5 and 45.5 out of 50. So they were very proficient in their English, and their age range was between 20 and 34. These are images taken of VOTs that I had gotten while I was conducting analyses. On the top you see a Spanish T, and on the bottom you see an English T. So as you can see, the English ones are significantly longer than the Spanish ones, and you can see the burst at the beginning there, and then the vowel onset. And there was also a lot of aspiration, that's the really, really thick stuff in the English one, for a lot of the English target words, which I was not expecting and really scared me at first because I thought that they were broken. For preliminary results, overall I collected 6,336 tokens or target words, and so far I have analyzed 3,168. And I've been focusing on the T initial words. Doing VOT analysis takes a lot of time, which I did not realize before this. So it's been a very long and arduous process, and I've loved every second of it. For preliminary results, when we averaged the VOTs in each condition, we got a graph that looked like this. As you can see, there's a slight difference in the code switch English, code switch Spanish, and Spanish trials. The light blue is before the switch and the black is after the switch. And I'm currently learning how to run statistical analysis because I originally thought that there was no difference because they're all within 2 milliseconds of each other. But as I've been going through statistical analysis, so far we've found significant differences in both Spanish trials. So I'll be working more with that in the future and just learning more about data analysis. For my future work, I still have the P initial words to analyze. I've been working on marking the VOTs for them. I'm about halfway done. And if possible, I'm going to look at the vowels that follow the voiceless stops. And in the future, I would really like to collect data from Penn State to look at habitual code switchers, just to see if there's effect there, to see like any differences between the habitual and non-habitual code switchers. All right. I don't know if any of you are applying for PIRE. I know before I applied, I came to this meeting and was listening to all the people talk. But it's such a great experience. I honestly, this has been the highlight of my time at Penn State. It has influenced me both academically and personally. I had been in the lab, it's been 5 semesters now. So I had been here for a while before doing PIRE, but it didn't consume my soul until PIRE. So I have a lot more interest in research. I'm a lot more devoted to my work. If you talk to any of the people in the basement, I am there always. I have considered bringing a bed in, but apparently that's not allowed. Personally, I've gained a lot of lasting friendships with a lot of amazing people, and I have an increased desire to experience different cultures. Like I had said, this is my first time in a different country, so I was kind of terrified. But everyone was so nice and put up with my broken Spanish. And additionally, I have a greater sense of independence and awareness of my abilities. You will quickly learn to be independent if you have to do a project. A very, very intensive project by yourself with help. And that brings me to special thanks to all of these people. Without them, I would have been lost. This project took a lot of work, and I just really would like to thank Jeanette Van Hel and Mariana Nediu. They have put up with me so much. Anytime I have a question, they have answered it. They have gone above and beyond what I could have ever expected. And I'm just really, really thankful for them. And references and a beautiful picture of the Alhambra, which was my favorite building.